Every 39 minutes in the UK, someone has stoma surgery. They are very, very common, but people don't talk about it. If they can do it, why can't I? And that is really a theme that I live by. If they can do it, why can't I? Nobody talks about it when a birth goes wrong. You know, all you see are happy mums in the play park with their kids and their babies. I was completely broken. I was absolutely broken as a person. But it certainly wasn't my fault, and it wasn't the fault of my body, and that is something that you have to come to terms with. Before I gave birth, I was a police officer in West Yorkshire Police. I'd only been in the job for about 2 or 3 years, and then I fell pregnant in early 2011, and I was due to give birth later that year in the November. And the baby was going to be my husband and I's very first baby. So we were very, very excited to welcome our baby in November that year. Unfortunately, he came 6 weeks prematurely on the 20th of October. So he got stuck in the birthing canal. He was too tired to help himself out. So his heart rate crashed, and because of that, it turned into an emergency situation. They had to use forceps to whip him out, and when they did that, they obviously saved his life, but they really, really badly damaged me in the process. So unfortunately, I was left with what we call a 4th degree tear, which essentially means that you're split right in two, all the way through. This wasn't actually picked up for 5 days after the birth, by which point I was completely incontinent. I had a massive abscess, I was on the verge of septicemia, and I had collapsed in the corridor of the hospital. When I was examined, they discovered I had this tear, they discovered the abscess, they also discovered a rectovaginal fistula, which is an extremely rare complication. And in order to allow all of this area to heal, they had to fit me with what was meant to be a temporary colostomy. That was only meant to be for 12 weeks, but unfortunately my injuries were far too severe, so it ended up being permanent. Not only was I left physically very badly damaged by the birth, I also was left with post-traumatic stress, severe anxiety. I lived in a state of complete hypervigilance for about 3 years, and ultimately this led to me being medically retired out of the police in 2013. The only way you can describe it really is I was completely broken. Every day was really difficult. Yeah, it was just a battle, the whole thing. So I'm very fortunate that since all of this happened to me, I have experienced what some people call post-traumatic growth. So for the first 3 years after I had Sam, I was in a very bad way, physically and mentally. I accepted my stoma, I accepted my situation because there's no point in fighting against things you can't change, but I didn't really embrace it. And then one day I read a magazine article by a lady who was a triathlete with a stoma, and she felt gratitude for having her stoma because, well, she had a lot of bowel problems. And having her stoma had taken all those problems away. And I suddenly thought, well, actually, if I didn't have my stoma, I would be incontinent. You really have to just get out there and enjoy the life that you've got, the chance that you've been given, and I'm going to stop saying no to things. And at the end of the day, nothing can be as hard and as difficult and as painful as what I've just been through. So that was it. That was the second part of my life, and actually I would say that all of that trauma and everything I went through was the best thing that ever happened to me. Two and a half years ago, somebody said to me, "Have you ever thought about swimming the channel?" I said, "No, why would I want to swim the channel? Like, there is no way I'm swimming out in the open water on my own, at night possibly, like, absolutely no way." And then I thought, this is going to be an amazing way to raise awareness, because no one with a stoma has done a solo before. And I really just want to capture people's attention and say, look what is possible after you've been through significant trauma. Your life isn't over, and I just want people to take notice of all of us women who have been injured in childbirth, to take notice of all of the trauma that goes on behind these happy births sometimes. So very spontaneously, going from, "Are you joking?" I said, "Yeah, okay."
Have you got a message for Sam?
It was all for you, gorgeous boy.